And now we enter the standardized step. This is the step that ensures that the improved conditions that we made with the first 3 S's don't deteriorate back to how they were before. The standardized phase has to happen and be proven before moving to sustain. One of the biggest keys to a successful 5S is that it will only work if it's followed.
Standardize is probably the most important part of 5S. Discipline is necessary to ensure consistency and so that we have the possibility of long-term success and sustainability. If we can't standardize and sustain basic housekeeping, we will really struggle at solving more complex problems. The key is to describe a standard for the improvements that we made during sort, shine, and set in order. We'll sometimes hear that it's too hard to create standards, but if you can't describe a standard for what you are doing, you might have a bad procedure happening, or the hard truth is, you just might not know what you're actually doing. The first 3 S's will provide a support system for Standardize. By properly standardizing, we will create practices to support sort, shine, and set in order.
So how do we standardize? Well, first, we prioritize and schedule 5S tasks. For example, at the end of each workday, have employees take 15 minutes to perform small versions of the first 3 S's. At the end of the day, the workspace should be clear of items that don't belong there, clean, organized, and ready to start work the next shift. Daily sorting, keeping in order, and cleaning tasks are integrated into daily work. That means sorting through the workspace and removing anything that doesn't belong, straightening up by putting everything back in its place, and shining the workspace by cleaning, taking out the trash, sweeping.
Example of weekly tasks might be wiping down computer keyboards or equipment. An example of monthly tasks could be more detailed cleaning, or sorting through materials and supplies in the area and discarding as needed. When a daily schedule is followed, we should only need to do major 5S activities once a month or less. Plan ahead for the event by making a list of all activities that need to be done. This will also lead into standard work. Make sure to have all the supplies needed and that everyone is aware of what their tasks are and when it needs to be done. Semi-annual events could involve sorting through desks, drawers, and discarding obsolete or outdated documents, waxing of floors, taping of aisles. Keeping in mind that if sources of contamination has been identified and fixed, these events will be at a minimum and you will be able to get on with normal life.
The next step is to assign and to integrate. This means that we assign responsibilities and integrate into our regular work. It may take a few reminders, but before long, employees will be starting their 5S steps without any supervision. Daily sweeping and cleaning, tools, supplies, and materials put away. Each person must contribute. This is a team sport, and the captain is responsible for involving the team members and making this process a success.
Standardize for safety. One of the benefits of 5S is that it makes the workspace safer. Make sure that any safety equipment is available and in designated areas. And audit. Not only employees but supervisors and management should also be involved in the auditing process. Every time we walk from one area to another, it's a perfect opportunity to audit the 5S along the way. We don't need to wait for the planned audit. That's a formal process. It should occur anytime we are walking around. To show that we are serious about 5S, an audit must be performed on a regular basis. A daily walkthrough should be done to check basic levels of 5S is maintained. Now, in your workbook is a box for you to draw the face of a dog. Please pause the video now to draw a dog in the blank spot provided.
And welcome back. It'd be great to see all of your drawings, and I wonder how much variation we'd see in them. We'll come back to the dogs in a few moments. Now we're talking about standards. When we create standards for a specific work area, the way to communicate and maintain that standard is with a simple one-page document. In your templates file is a simple template that you can use to identify the area and the specific characteristics that define the standard. What does a good job look like? In this example, we have a facilities team who established 5 different standards for this one storage area. There's an owner of the area who's responsible for making sure that the team keeps it up to standard. The rating of each standard is a simple yes or no. Up to standard gets a green, and not up to standard gets a red.
Pretty simple. Working towards consistency, reducing variation, and eliminating waste, Standardize is all about making work consistent and good. These photos here show an example of standards posted in a common area as well as at each desk. The pictures identify how the specific area should look, and there's an owner and an accountability for each area. It's very easy to see how each area should look, and more importantly, to determine whether something is out of order. Now let's move to the next page on your workbook, where you have a simple 4-step instruction to draw a dog. Try the exercise again. Draw a dog in the blank space provided, using the step-by-step instructions. Pause this video now and give it a go. Welcome back.
Just for fun, compare your two dogs, the one from a couple pages back to this one. And think about your confidence and speed while drawing the first one without any standards, and then this one with instructions and standards provided. You may have had a whole different idea of the objective. Maybe you drew a whole dog, legs, tail, and all, or maybe you drew a simple outline. Without knowing what the standard of what does a good job look like, we can expect that if we asked 100 people to draw a dog, we'd get 100 completely different drawings.
And we have.
But with the standard in place, we can bet that the variation is dramatically improved. Pretty cool, huh?
It is. And to help you keep this all organized, we have the standardized job aid. In reality, when an organization or an area attempts 5S, the tendency is to complete the first 3 S's and then immediately move on to another area because of the excitement of the results after the sort, shine, and set in order process. To be honest, the idea of the last 2 S's is not as much fun, but that's where the value lies. We have to try as hard as possible to avoiding standardize and sustain. It's important to prepare for and to resist skipping these 2 steps. Otherwise, all of the efforts so far will be for nothing. They'll be a complete waste. We'll have to redo our work, which is extra processing. And the first attempt at 5S will be non-value added because it'll not have been done the right way the first time. People will get frustrated and they won't like doing it again.
The last step in 5S is sustain. And if we can't sustain it, then it has very little value. Before we can move on to other areas or solve bigger or more complex issues in the organization, we need to successfully demonstrate that our 5S system can be sustained.
Sustaining is all about great habits. It's not something to be added on top of daily work, but should become routine and part of the work we do. A really great 5S is transparent, meaning that it occurs just by our daily activities and tasks. 5S and sustaining are not events. It's a habit that is effectively integrated with our people and our processes, embedded into our daily routines.
Really well said. In our work, we often use the last 2 steps of 5S to determine whether a team or an organization really has what it takes to achieve real results. Developing the discipline in our work allows our processes to reach their full potential. And this is super important. Our processes need to be robust. Our customers have varying demands. We have constant changes and challenges. And in order to be able to keep our customers delighted while running efficiently, we've got to do these basics well. The sustain step is about creating a culture to support your 5S system. In this step, we make a habit of properly maintaining correct procedures. We no longer accept the dark, dirty, disorganized workplace that results in lower morale.
So what do these good habits look like? It means that we reinforce 5S with regular meetings. We keep employees updated on improvements. We keep employees involved, solicit ideas to improve, evaluate the results and progress.
And in your templates file is a job aid for the Sustain step of 5S.
You guys are so lucky.
This step is about leadership support, team engagement, and great communication, all crucial to the sustaining and organized workplace.
The step includes idea sharing, benchmarking with other areas inside or outside the organization, presenting successes and results, and visiting other sites or departments, and supporting the regular assessments to identify areas for further improvement.
A little side note to leadership, when visiting a 5S area, instead of focusing on the 5S score, ask what improvements the team has been thinking about and executing since the last audit. That's a better indicator to the level and quality of collaborative energy for improvement, better than a 5S score.
And also ask how you can support the improvements. We've mentioned that a key part of sustaining a 5S system is a regular audit or assessment. And I know everyone goes, "Bleh, that's horrible," but it is crucial, guys. The purpose of the assessment is to stay on top of the improvements and with each assessment to recognize even more ways to improve.
Performing a workplace assessment, identifying disorganization, missing information, or confusion in the workplace is a great way to determine improvement opportunities. No system remains perfect. The workplace and workspaces change. The work being done changes. For multiple reasons, a 5S system must always be improved upon. So going through the assessment with the employees in the area is also a great way to identify their concerns and to get their input and ideas.
This form, as with our other templates, can be used electronically or it can be printed out. The assessment consists of an area for each of the 5 S's, and each area has 4 descriptors. Each descriptor is rated on a scale of 0 to 5. 0 is the worst and 5 is world class. There's also a notes section in each area to capture specifics to provide details to support the scoring for that section and to give feedback to the team. The light green fields where the score is input is a simple drop down of 0 through to 5. And when the scores are entered for each descriptor, the average for that section will be calculated and displayed to the right. Up at the top is the overall score for all the 5 S's.
Performing a regular assessment is the key to sustaining and to growing your 5S efforts. Posting the assessment results and tracking the progress is a great energizer for the team. Sometimes it takes looking back at how things were to really appreciate the significant improvements that have been made over several months.
Everyone should look after their own areas. The risk of relying only on formal assessments is that they don't always drive the best behavior, as people may let things go until it's time for the assessment, and that's not the point. We want to create a culture, not an assessment. If you consider that the definition of 5S roughly is everything in its place, clean and ready for use, then any departure from the standard is something to be addressed. 5S is not only about audits, but also about establishing a clear expectation for what is required for the work and a visual check to make sure those things are present, where they should be, and serviceable.
Incorporating informal assessments into our routine should become a natural part of your 5S system. It means that we go to the work area, find something, anything, and simply ask a couple of questions. Does this belong here? Is it ready to use? Would it be obvious to a new employee or to a visitor? A no or a not sure answer means that we need to correct the situation, and any confusion or ambiguity is a clue that we could use some visual controls.
When we see something that is not right, or that is a departure from a standard or an expectation, it requires 2 things.
What are those 2 things, Rihanna?
Discipline. Discipline to the process. So immediate correction and immediate curiosity about how it got that way in the first place. So the risk of relying only on formal assessments is they don't necessarily drive you to think of corrective actions and problem solving until the time of the assessment. And sometimes that assessment happens and then we're busy with something else and it gets postponed and there's always an issue with it. Since it is the corrective action and problem solving that sustains the 5S to begin with, most organizations get stuck between level 2 and 3 on the 5-point scale unless they work on modifying their daily habits and holding themselves accountable daily to their standards.
It's sometimes easier to think of using 5S in a physical workspace, but 5S is a great way to optimize in a digital workplace as well. We can apply the same principles, but first they have to map the physical and digital environments. A physical workplace is where an employee or a work group performs a set of related or similar operations. Disorganization of the physical space will be visually obvious.
In a digital workplace, we also have a workplace where similar tasks are being performed. Let's say that we are customer support reps for a credit card division of a bank. We can service our customers right from our laptop or our phone.
We should be able to quickly and accurately provide customers with information related to their card, or to request a new credit card, to replace an expired or stolen card, or to cancel one, or to issue a statement. To do this, we need access to some information. We need access to specific business apps. We need support information like current issues related to the products. We need applicable product information, training materials and procedures, and maybe some FAQs.
We should be able to easily find the people in charge for supporting and to send feedback to the product team or to operations. All of this information likely sits in various databases or repositories with a lot of complex functionality going on behind the scenes. From a user perspective, someone who is working to serve the customer, we'd ideally like to see all of the elements that we need access to grouped together in a nice, logical order, right at our fingertips.
But that's not always what we find. Many times organizations assume that each employee will just figure out how to find the information they need to properly perform a task. Too familiar, huh?
Or they get trained a certain way and that's just the way they keep doing it.
Well, this makes it rather complicated for the employee and ultimately generates errors, costs, delays, and unhappy customers.
So what can we do better in our digital workspaces? 5S focuses on each individual workplace within the company and makes sure each is well organized so the worker can be as productive as possible. And yes, this includes you guys working with data. For each task, the digital worker needs to know how to do the work, the forms, procedures, manuals, FAQs, support contacts, and also which applications to use, preferably with a link to that app. Traditionally, most digital workspaces focus more on tools. For example, you might see a list of apps on the first page of an intranet and less on the task. For example, how to block a stolen credit card.
So a good digital workspace ergonomically gathers all of the required information around a topic and then makes it a lot easier for employees to remain productive. When we apply 5S to a factory, for example, we apply it to the whole factory floor, looking at each physical workplace, and you make sure that it's well optimized. The same exact thing applies to the digital workplace. All relevant topics and tasks must be identified and addressed within the same attention as one would do for a physical workplace. Let's talk through how our 5S's might look in the digital workspace.
Oh, you guys thought you're going to get away with it, eh? Okay, so first of all, sorting or removing programs, applications and files from your desktop that you don't need or that you don't use any longer or that you might not use that often. Once you take inventory of everything you actually do need, you'll be surprised at what you can get rid of.
Then shine. That's for us to keep our computer drive, our desktop clean and tidy. Turn off all those notifications that you get from Facebook, Twitter, news feeds, your personal inbox, and so on. Think about systems that receive junky data, incomplete fields or numeric fields that are all nines because the data didn't properly import. Data cleansing is a whole topic on its own, but the shine step of 5S asks us to think about cleaning the data and preventing the junk from getting into our system in the first place. Set in order or assigning a place for all those programs, applications, and support files that we do use on a daily basis. Organizing this information, this data, and these files in folders by subject, by department, by project, or by date. Setting in order so that people can get their hands on the information they need when they need it.
Then we get to standardize. We standardize by keeping your desktop drives and shared folders and files consistently named and stored. Above all, sustain and maintain all of these organizational and performance practices so that you can continue to thrive and succeed for years to come.
Deciding to implement 5S in your work area requires some planning to do it well. In your templates is a 5S planner that guides you to complete the necessary prep before you jump right into the S's. In this form, the light yellow cells are for you to fill in information, and the light green cells provide a nice drop-down list. Up at the top, we have the area or process name and the process owner. That's the person who has the authority to approve changes. And there's also a spot to capture the starting and ending points of the process, or to solidify the boundaries of the workspace.
The schedule has the major milestones of the 5S implementation with a simple Gantt chart format to identify when the team anticipates the completion of each of these milestones. In this section, add the date at the top. We usually use the end of each week, and then just select the check mark from the drop-down to create the Gantt chart schedule. The next section is to define the team and who will do what. Again, select a check mark in the cell for each team member and their role or roles. It never works when we say that everyone is responsible for everything. In reality, it ends up that nobody is responsible for anything.
Ain't it the truth?
How many times have we seen that?
For the team, consider selecting people from outside the area. People from areas that might be next to implement 5S are a good idea, as then they'll have some experience when it comes to implementing in their own area. It's always nice to have maintenance person on the 5S event team. People from outside the work area are also helpful as they'll ask a lot of questions, and they're usually not afraid to challenge whether things are actually required and how things are done. Identify the people who can influence or who will be affected by a 5S in the work area to round out the team.
The next section is about supplies. Very important. Having supplies ready will save time searching for last-minute items. Use the drop-down list or customize it if you have different needs. Typically, changes made through 5S is either zero cost or very low cost. A small budget should be allocated for the team. Be sure to check this out with the area leadership. Larger expenditures should go through normal approval processes and capital management.
A few more thoughts as we wrap up this module on 5S. Support from leadership and the area manager or supervisor from the beginning is absolutely critical.
Absolutely crucial.
Their role is to lead the changes, to lead the improvements. By doing this, they become part of the future, part of the solution, instead of being like the school hall monitors.
It's their role to maintain organized standards, such as standards for labeling, naming, marking, color coding, etc. So basically you have standards for standards. Otherwise, each 5S team implements differently, and the visual effects is a haphazard approach that could cause problems for everyone.
And most importantly, they need to provide time for the improvements. The workforce cannot eke out these snippets of time and make this magic happen. When that happens, we end up attributing the failure of 5S to inertia, flavor of the month, or people having difficulties in change management. Leaders must distinguish time for improvement from time for production and operations. Otherwise, improvement will only happen if it's pushed by leaders or if there's a structured event-based change.
It is important that the workers in the area own the improvements and become responsible for the continual improvement of it. The role of the team is to maintain 5S by continually monitoring and improving on the standards. They need to show the benefits like time or efficiency or accuracy. They can track and show results and find savings, and then share and promote the improvements. The team can invite managers, supervisors, to participate in meetings and encourage them to be actively engaged in audits and reviews of before and after summaries. It's important to share ideas and communicate with upper levels who can carry your messages forward.
Teams can take leaders and people from other areas on a tour of their work area. Show them what's changed, talk about the accomplishments, explain how the team accomplished success. Work closely with supervisors and managers to identify current results and also to identify what additional problems could be resolved with 5S.
And there'll be a lot of them.
Five S is the first of multiple improvement methods, and while it won't solve all issues, it can be a great foundation for teams to learn disciplined problem solving, and it's a great gateway for other improvement tools. Through 5S, processes become standardized. Problems and abnormalities will be more obvious. Employees' ideas for improvement will be stimulated, and it makes the need for greater problem-solving skills even more apparent.
It's all summarized here for you in this beautiful one-point lesson on 5S. Be prepared to demonstrate your new skills and understanding of the 5S process. Pause the video now to take a quick quiz on this section. Hopefully the time will pass quickly, and you will too. It has been our sincere pleasure being with you through this part of the training, and we thank you for your dedication to creating a better workplace and an environment that you can truly enjoy.